The Flash Season 2, Episode 12, Fastlane. Now, first off, I want to say I think, personally, this is a really great episode for Wally. I think he wasn't hating somebody in this episode. He was just genuinely dealing with some stuff that happened. Basically, they say it in dialogue, and I was very surprised to hear this, but basically, Francine is dead. Between this episode and the last one, she died. So they didn't do the whole tragic mother dying thing, and I would assume ceremony and funeral and all that stuff. She was about to die in the last one. She's dead now. And I didn't know that until Iris went to talk to Wally, and it's like, you were doing this to pay for medical bills, and there aren't any anymore. And I'm like, well, that officially says that Francine died. So, I don't know, maybe it was a deleted scene, they just didn't have time, and they felt, they did all the build up anyway, and everyone knew what was happening, so they didn't feel the need to show us her dying, because it would have just been another sad scene in the show. But I was surprised that they did that, because most shows would still show it, even though it's obvious that she was gonna die. There was no way of stopping it. They still end up showing it, even if it's an unimportant character, because it affects the more relevant characters. But I was surprised they did it that way, but it was still really good. I don't mind if they skip that either, because I don't personally need to see a really sad scene where everyone's crying because, the mother that Iris never knew died, and, Wally's, mother died, and now he's with his, basically, to him it's like his brand new family. So didn't need to see all that anyway, so I'm totally fine with it. But I really enjoyed that, and I was also surprised by the fact that that was really the main story of this episode, because we have three things happening, and we have Tar Pit as our meta-human villain, which was like the most minimal story of this episode, which really surprised me because, of course, in the trailer, they made it seem like that was the main point of the episode. We have this meta-human villain and stuff, and I felt, even though he got a big chunk, he got I believe he got the first scene of the episode, where it goes back 2 years, and then him being thrown into the tar pit, the actual tar pit, and then coming out of the ground and everything. Even though he got that, he still wasn't nearly as relevant, in this episode. It was just like, even the stuff they did with the people connected to him, especially when they did it at the end when they went to the drag race that Wally was at, seemingly nothing really came out of that either, because maybe they arrested that guy. I would assume they did, but even when they were using someone as bait, they didn't use the guy, excuse me, from the drag race. It was the character Clay who actually tossed him over. So I was surprised that they did it that way. And seemingly he freaked out. Barry saved him, and then that was it. That's all we saw of him. But I assume he got arrested. But that was a very minimal thing. It was the supervillain of the episode, but it didn't really matter. It was not that bad of a villain. I thought it was interesting, his abilities, and ultimately he showed up a couple times, and then they beat him at the end. He threw a fireball once, and then they made the nitrous grenades, and he was done for. So that's pretty much it. They beat him. They threw it. They froze him in his tar form, and it broke apart. Which I thought he died. I was like, man, they killed somebody else, because I thought he died. Like the sand guy, I thought they kind of killed him the same way. I thought he was the tar. I didn't think it was like a casing around his body. I thought it was actually him, and then it blew up and his normal body came out. I was like, oh, well, at least they're not killing everybody this time. Which, I mean, I don't know. I guess he was a bad guy in general, because you typically don't get involved with those type of people unless you're bad in some regard. And he was in prison, so whatever. But they defeated him and stuff, and it was like, alright, he was done. I really didn't ultimately care too much. I mean, he created some interesting scenes, one of which being the nitrous grenade scene when Cisco's like, next time we meet him, we'll beat him with these. And he catches it. I'm like, oh, it's just like some little thing. And then he's like, these nitrous grenades, because he has to struggle to catch it in the last second, because Wells just tosses it without even looking. It's just like, here you go. So that was probably one of the biggest contributions of Tar Pit, is that he made one of my favorite jokes, happen from this episode. Sorry I keep coughing, I don't know why. But ultimately he was just like a normal villain, and nothing special. But the other stuff that happened was really good in this episode. The Wally West stuff was, I think the Wally stuff was my favorite, because I just really like seeing him not be mad at somebody And I didn't hate him really in the last episode. He was legitimately mad. He had good reason. And I mentioned, of course, his stuff before that when he was like first, introduced, when he had like his first full episode. I was like, man, I kind of hate him. He's a bit of a dick. But this one, he's working through it, and everything seems fine. And he's just going through the motions and dealing with stuff. He stops the drag racing because, of course, he ends up having, almost a crazy disaster. Um, and I love the explanation he gave at the end of this episode. That was one of my favorite things about this episode, and it was, they have the conversation early on where he's like, I love to go fast and stuff, and I was like, that explains why he wants to be, that will explain why he wants to be the Flash in the future, I would assume. And so, because I'm assuming they're going to do the initial Wally West story where Wally makes his own powers. He just recreates what happened to Barry, and he gets the powers himself, and it works. And that's pretty much exactly what happens. So I think they're going to do that again. And I don't know. I would assume in the comic books, this part I don't know for sure, but I would assume he simulated the lightning bolt, and it wasn't like an actual, genuine lightning bolt. So that's why he's not as fast until like much later. But they started off and it's like, I really wanted to be an astronaut because that's technically the fastest you can travel. And I mean, I don't know, I understood that, but I was like, you'd only feel that for like, I don't know how long it takes to, get out of the atmosphere, but you'd feel that for like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't think it even takes that long, really. But it's like you'd feel that for a little bit, then you're just floating in space. Technically, you are moving really fast around the Earth, but it's like, you won't feel that. But then you mentioned like the scramjets and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, so he likes, to go really fast and stuff. And then we got the really emotional side of why he continues the drag racing. It's partly because he just likes to, go fast. He enjoys that speed. But it was because it reminded him of when he was younger with his mother. And they would just go on these really long drives. And I like that aspect of his character. And there are a lot of different things that kind of helped me see like, okay, this is why he's going to recreate the experiment if they do decide to go with that storyline. This will be why he recreates the experiment to, get Barry's powers. And I don't know if he's going to figure out that Barry is Barry. He would have to know the experiment, I would assume. Um, so there were a couple of things in there. And I thought when Iris got hurt, I thought that would be his push. I thought because he was, basically the whole episode he was going through dealing with Iris as his sister and trying to figure things out and trying to tell her like, I can't protect you and stuff like that. And I was like, this is a great lead up. And especially seeing Barry fail towards the end of this episode from saving Iris from getting hit, I thought that would be the perfect drive to have Wally say, I want to be as fast as the Flash. I want to be better than him. I want to be even faster than him. And when he finds out that Barry is the Flash, which probably won't happen until the next season, maybe it will probably be next season because every time there's somebody, they find out Barry's the Flash. So it probably won't be a 2 season, it'll be the next season. But I thought that would make the perfect sense, and it'd be like, okay, he wants that drive, and that could still be the case. He doesn't say it in this episode because I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's ever actually seen the Flash. So that could come up in the next episode, and it's like, I know he wasn't able to stop the piece of glass from hitting you in the chest and stuff, but he saved me from a car that was flipping upside down. He saved the other guy, and he took off. He was like a bolt of lightning, and he takes off to get you to the hospital. And I could see that being like an obsession of Wally's until he figures out Barry is the Flash, and then he'll get answers from him, and he'll recreate the experiment. And I like that idea, and it makes perfect sense. And it, like I said, it still could be the case. I kind of doubt it, but I thought for sure they'd have some sort of line in there after Iris is in the hospital where he'd say like, I wish I was as fast as the Flash, and then I would have been able to catch you, or if I was faster than the Flash or something like that, I would have been able to, save you and catch that piece of glass or something like that. So I think they'll kind of go that route, and that makes perfect sense. He obviously likes to go fast just in general, so it works perfectly. There are a lot of different ways they could do it where he has the drive to be like the Flash, and then just generally after that, considering he's an okay character, he'll just end up being like one of the good guys. So I'm looking forward to that, even though that probably won't happen for a really long time, unfortunately, because even at this point, we have Jay Garrick, and they're still teasing us like we still only have Barry as one as at least as a good speedster, we have Zoom, who actually shows up in this episode, but it's still like only Barry, and we don't get to see a bunch of even two good speedsters at the same time, where there's like two people with super speed going to stop a crime together. Boom, done. I can't wait for that episode. I'm sure we'll get it at some point, but I want that to happen sooner rather than later. But we do get to see Zoom, and this leads into the third storyline, which was also pretty good in this episode. It ended pretty well, and I'm very excited for the next episode. Of course, I've been waiting for it ever since I saw the trailer. I can't wait till they go to Earth 2. But Harrison Wells making this device where he can take Barry's power, he can take his lightning, and give it to Zoom, I thought that was pretty cool. The fact that they, of course, let Harrison Wells go at the end of the episode, they don't know where Zoom is, so it's very unlikely that this would happen. But they do have a way to take his powers now, and that I love. It gives us a clear possibility. Something that I thought was very interesting is that I'm wondering now, like, and this kind of leads once again to Jay Garrick, but I'm wondering if Wells actually helped Zoom take his powers before, because I always assumed Zoom just took his powers. Like, I thought he was taking Barry's powers when he like stuck his fingers in them. I thought he was like siphoning his powers, but that didn't happen. And so it makes me wonder now if Wells is the reason Jay Garrick doesn't have powers, and they show the comparison of the DNA cells, and Barry's DNA structure, his original structure is fine, but the current structure is not only lessened as far as him being able to run as fast, but it comes up as DNA, like actual genetic damage. And it makes me wonder if that happened to Jay Garrick, and that's why he's dying. It's because, maybe Harrison Wells, or maybe it was just someone random, was forced to do something for Zoom. I would think it would be Wells, but he didn't mention it. He was kind of having a really good moment at the end of this episode, admitting that he did it, which kind of blew my mind, and I was really happy that happened. But he doesn't go the extra step and say, I did it with Jay Garrick as well, and that would be like the official answer, like, okay, he helped take his powers, and because it basically registered as cell damage, that's why Jay Garrick is dying, because not only did it take his speed, but it's killing him. And that's probably exactly what it is. It may not have happened because of Harrison Wells, but however Zoom took Jay's power, I think that's why he's dying, because they kind of show it in this episode. With Barry losing his power, it showed up as cell damage, and that was from a device. So I think whatever happened to Jay, that's why he's dying, because it was his entire body, was supercharged, and he lost that ability. If that shows up as cell damage, it could really mess him up. So there are a lot of different factors there, I would assume, because that does remind me of, I think when he was running on the thing, I can't even remember what the heck is on the treadmill. He was running at like a pretty high pace, but he still had like a very normal heart rate and everything, because he was so used to running at super speed. So there's a lot of different factors in there, so I could be right, could be wrong. But I thought it was interesting that they mentioned that. And it's like, okay, that would be the perfect reason as to why Jay is dying. And it's not just like, oh, he's super weak or anything. It's just his power's been gone. Maybe he's had time to heal from that, unlike Barry. Like, he was feeling it towards the end of this episode, after it happened, after he used his abilities a couple of times. That's when he was finally starting to feel it. And maybe it happened all at once for Jay or something. And it seemingly did, because he was already going up against Zoom, and Zoom, I guess, just took his powers all in that moment, which we still don't know how he did it. So it's up in the air, honestly. But that would explain why he's dying, is because when his power was taken from him, it was represented by cell damage within his body. So we might get, they might kind of connect the dots there. That could be nothing, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that just makes perfect sense. That's why Jay's dying, because his powers were taken, and it kind of came on as cell damage. But I like the fact that Wells kind of gave himself up at the end, and, they were having their moments, and he's like, I would always betray you, and I choose my daughter and stuff, and then everyone's freaking out, and Barry, they had some very interesting dialogue in this episode. Barry was he's very chipper, I think. I don't know why I use that word, but he was. And he was, laughing it up a lot. He was being, real buddy-buddy with Wells. And, like, they had the part when Wells was putting the device on his suit, they just had like Barry and Cisco just talking and making jokes. They don't do that, often enough. They normally do like they'll have a joke here and there, but that was like a full scene where it was like really tense and he's putting the device in the suit, and then the other half of that scene is just Barry and Cisco talking and joking around and stuff. So they had some interesting moments of dialogue where the characters were just kind of having fun, and I actually enjoyed that, and it was something I really noticed because normally it's like facts and this is what's happening and that's what's happening, and then there's a joke like every once in a while with Cisco, but I think Barry really had like the funny moments in this episode where he was just enjoying himself. And like when they destroy the breach, which was another big thing in this episode, they figured out how to get rid of the breaches, so now they can take down all of them and keep just the one, which might be dangerous if they did that, but they could just keep the one inside of Star Labs. And I say that's dangerous, of course, because if that's the only way Zoom can get in, he'll just run in, and I mean, he probably wouldn't because he wants Barry's power. So I don't know. It's hard to guess with this type of character, but maybe he would just run in and destroy everybody, I guess. But I think Wells had a really cool moment when he actually gave himself up and was like, I basically had a change of heart. It was like, man, they really trust me and they like me and stuff like that. And it's kind of changed, and he felt really bad, which I enjoyed. And so now we're gonna get to see these characters go to Earth 2. Unfortunately, Barry's power is dropped to 98%, which I would assume that's going to come back by the end of the season. However they take Zoom's power, which I don't think can end up being the same, because it'll be a little difficult to get the little thing on him without him noticing, I would assume. So, now that he has Barry's power, he'll be even faster when they go up against each other. And he was already way faster than him to begin with. So, that's not really great, but I'm really excited to see them go to Earth 2. We're going to get to see Killer Frost. We're going to get Ronnie back as... It's not Firestorm, it's something. It's like some extra name on it or something like that. But we're going to get both of them in this episode, which should be really exciting. They're both going to be villains, of course. Sucks that Ronnie's only coming back as a villain and he's just... Maybe he's gone. I mean, we still don't really know. There's all these possibilities out there where he may or may not be dead. But we will get to see evil Ronnie, so that should be something. And he and Caitlin are actually still a couple, which is pretty interesting. And seemingly, Iris and Barry are already a couple in Earth 2, so that's something as well. It seems like the people who are meant to date no matter what Earth it is, and I find that kind of funny. But it should be fun. They already showed in the trailer that Killer Frost knows about the other dimensions and stuff, because she's like, which one of you is in the wrong universe? So that says a lot there. I don't know if she finds that out in the episode or if she's known that for a while or something crazy like that. But I'm looking forward to this next one for sure. I can't wait to see it. If they do end up coming to Earth 1 somehow, that would be pretty cool, especially because we get to see the full makeup color, because everything's going to have like, everything in Earth 2 has like a sepia tone over it, which is okay, but it takes away from the actual color scheme. So I don't like that as much, but I know it's because it's basically like futuristic 50s, which I'm totally fine with. I am looking forward to seeing the style. You can see it in the episode, or for the trailer too. Everyone's in suits and stuff because it's meant to be the futuristic version of the 50s. Except for Wells, I think he's the only person we've seen, like him and his daughter, are probably like the only couple of people we've seen just in like normal clothing and stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. This was a really fun episode. Glad to see Wally just not hating someone and actually working towards, joining, his family. He and Barry still have to have a moment, because at this point, it's still like, whenever Wally's in the scene, Barry kind of backs off because he wants them to kind of develop as a family. But they still have to have a scene, and I want them to have one. I think they'd actually get along in a very odd way, but a really fun way. So I'm looking forward to that scene coming up, which probably won't be for a couple more episodes, but I'm looking forward to it. Definitely enjoyed this episode. I can only assume, based on everything that happened during the final drag race, Wally's done with that. So we'll see him, I guess, working somewhere. Maybe he might end up working at Jitters, because that's where everyone works. That would be funny. I think that would be really funny if that happened. But I'm looking forward to what they come up with. Can't wait to see Earth 2. But of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And there's a lot of different stuff, obviously, that happened in this episode. Stuff with Wally was fairly important, emotionally speaking. Good development for him, but the big thing I think is them going to Earth 2. So I want to know what you guys think they're going to find in Earth 2, outside of course, Killer Frost and Evil Ronnie. I swear I can't remember. It's not just Firestorm, it's something else. It's a name from the comics, but I can't remember what it is. But outside of just them, being the evil couple, what do you guys think they're going to find in Earth 2? Because if they run into Zoom, he would just destroy them. So that can't be what happens in the next episode. Seemingly is going to focus around them getting captured and Barry having to save his alter ego, or his doppelganger from Earth 2. So it seems like I don't know. Like, it's a trailer though, so you never really know what the focus is. Thought this was going to be about Tar Pit. He was basically nothing in the episode. He had like a couple of scenes. So lots of possibilities. I definitely want to know what you think they're going to find in Earth 2. What do you want to see from Earth 2? Because there's, of course, a lot of stuff we can see. I mean, we only have so many superheroes in Arrow and Flash. But it would be cool if they did something with Legends of Tomorrow. It's like just a little hint, like this is what those characters are doing in this universe. That would be really awesome too. I highly doubt it, but I kind of love to see that as well, what the Legends of Tomorrow are doing from Earth 2. But like I said, I want to know your guesses and what you want to see from Earth 2 in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.